Don't you just hate to love all those con artists you see on TV and movies? They do make for great anti-heroes, don't they?
And if you think for 1 second I'm gonna let your mother talk to me like that, you are crazy. I'm a grown-ass man.
Why are you yelling at me?
But real-life hustlers and swindlers are a different beast altogether, especially when you fall for one of their clever schemes yourself. Watch and learn from the masters of deception as we round up the 9 greatest con artists of the 21st century. What's up, Fecnatics? This is Discovery Amuse, serving up your daily dose of the most outrageous, outlandish, and out-of-this-world fun facts. Stay tuned for our #1 pick, because that con artist was once even touted as the next Steve Jobs. Insane, I know.
Did we just give that boy $1 million? Are you kidding me?
Number 9, Billy McFarland. Remember that much-awaited, groundbreaking music festival of 2017 set in the Bahamas, advertised by the biggest influencers such as Bella Hadid and Kendall Jenner, which quickly turned into the greatest disaster of the 21st century?
New details that we're learning this morning about that epic fire music festival.
Going viral with the hashtag dumpster fire.
A luxury getaway quickly spiraling into chaos.
I'm talking, of course, about the granddaddy of all epic fails, the Fire Festival, and the man behind the viral fraud, Billy McFarland. The luxury music festival, which McFarland co-founded with rapper Ja Rule, was scheduled to take place in April and May of 2017. It was meant to be the ultimate party of the year, set in the pristine beaches of a private island once owned by Pablo Escobar, and where attendees can expect sumptuous meals, lavish villas, and even play with local piggies. What could possibly go wrong? Well, let's just say Murphy's Law had a field day.
Disaster relief tents and mattresses piled up in the dirt. As for that gourmet food, here it is, a cheese sandwich in a styrofoam box.
A storm hit the island the day before. Festival goers ended up waiting for hours at the tarmac. Water pipes broke and splashed water everywhere, and big acts like Blink-182 canceled last minute. Worse, hundreds of Bahamian locals ended up not getting paid for all the work they had put in.
I was there preparing hundreds and hundreds of meals, and I was not able to be paid. Out of savings, I'm sure I've spent more than $50,000.
After the dust settled, McFarland admitted that he gravely underestimated the resources needed to stage such a massive event, especially in a place that didn't have a water system. He also admitted that he made misrepresentations to investors and falsified documents, including bank statements, which allowed him to successfully defraud 100 investors out of more than $26 million.
He was creating fake balance sheets. He was creating a fake net worth.
McFarland is currently serving a 6-year prison sentence in federal prison for fraud charges. Keep watching, because our top pick is so ingenious, the whole of Silicon Valley actually fell for her scam. Number 8, Efraim Diveroli. If you've seen the 2016 flick War Dogs, then you might be familiar with Efraim Diveroli, the arms dealer played by Jonah Hill, who duped the U.S. Department of Defense into procuring old and substandard Chinese-made ammo from his company AEY Inc. AEY started small by getting federal contracts which bigger companies didn't want, until they slowly earned quite the reputation in the arms dealing industry. Fast forward to May 2007, together with his partner David Packow, Diveroli won a $300 million deal with the Pentagon to be the ammunition supplier for the war in Afghanistan. However, unable to source precious AK-47s as promised, they eventually resorted to contraband Chinese arms supplies.
We realized that when we actually inspected the ammunition, that it was Chinese. The ammunition had originally come from China.
The contract with the Army particularly stated that Chinese firearms were not allowed, so they hired an Albanian businessman to repackage the ammo and remove all the Chinese markings before shipping them out to Afghanistan.
Done.
A Obviously, Diveroli didn't get away with the deception, and at age 23, he pled guilty to conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government in 2008. He was sentenced to 4 years in jail, while Pacquiao was slapped with 7 months home detention. Number 7, Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff is a former Wall Street investment advisor who operated the largest Ponzi scheme in U.S. history. Yes, even bigger than Charles Ponzi's himself. It's often dubbed the scam of the century. Madoff started his Wall Street career in the early 1960s and eventually formed Madoff Securities, a business that became one of the biggest brokerage and wealth management firms in the U.S. By the 1990s, his firm was processing 10 to 15% of all trading orders for the New York Stock Exchange. His MO was textbook Ponzi. He attracted potential investors with huge returns from a legitimate business activity while using funds from more recent investors to pay off the earlier investors.
The advisory, it's a fraud. There are no investments.
What are you talking about? Of course there are investments.
I made them up.
In 2008, his scheme fell apart when his investors started cashing out. Madoff wasn't able to cover the requested withdrawals, amounting to around $7 billion.
It's a temporary thing, and because of the success that I've had and the money I made for people, I sort of felt that it would just sort of be a temporary situation, acceptable.
On June 29, 2009, Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison after pleading guilty to 11 federal felonies. Number 6, Samuel Israel. The worst thing about Ponzi schemes is that the average person gets defrauded out of their meager life savings by trusting that their investment will yield massive returns. And another con man who operated a huge Ponzi scheme is Samuel Israel III. In 1996, Israel founded his company, the Bayou Hedge Fund Group. Until the early 2000s, he raised $450 million from unsuspecting investors. As any classic Ponzi scheme goes, instead of investing this money, he appropriated these funds for personal use. When he was slowly having difficulty keeping up with investor withdrawals, he created a dummy accounting firm, which he quote-unquote hired to audit his hedge fund company in order to keep up appearances and attract more investors. In 2005, Israel was convicted of fraud and was later sentenced to 20 years in prison and ordered to forfeit $300 million after pleading guilty. However, in June of 2008, on the date he was supposed to turn himself in, he faked his death by an alleged suicide. He was eventually tracked down a month later and arrested by authorities. This resulted in his prison sentence being extended by 2 more years. Number 5, Christophe Rocancc. French imposter Christophe Rocancc was born in poverty to a prostitute mother and an alcoholic father. As soon as he turned 18, he ran away to Paris, where his series of criminal activity started, from petty theft and small fraud to forgery. Then, after a failed robbery in Geneva, Switzerland, he fled to Hollywood at age 24, where he eventually became a fraudster to the stars, or as he'd prefer to call it, a confidence man. In the land built on make-believe, Rocancc banked on his good looks and persuasive charm to create his multiple identities. Among them were a movie producer, a relative of various celebrities such as actress Sophia Loren and designer Oscar de la Renta, and an heir of the Rockefeller business family. He then convinced Jean-Claude Van Damme to produce his movie. He jumped bail several times for various arrests starting in the late 90s. In 2003, he was sentenced to serve 3 years and 3 months in prison, along with a fine of $9 million. In 2005, he returned to Paris after serving his sentence, but being a con man by heart, he got back to his old ways and defrauded French filmmaker Catherine Breillat out of roughly $850,000, which led to his 2012 imprisonment. In an interview, Rocancc claimed that he netted at least $40 million in total from all of his fraudulent schemes. Number 4, Raffaello Follieri. Italian-born Raffaello Follieri moved to New York in 2003 at the age of 25, and there he founded the Follieri Group, which he used to sell the Catholic Church's unwanted properties. He lured potential real estate investors by presenting himself as having a direct line to the Vatican.
In relation, like anybody that has a private company and want to go to the different dioceses in the United States and make an offer to buy real estate from them was.
I think there's a special place in hell for people who use the church to con other people, don't you think?
I'll see you in hell, William Money.
He reportedly scammed former U.S. President Bill Clinton and his billionaire friend Ronald Burkle out of a $50 million investment. And like a true blue con artist, Follieri instead funneled the investments into his lavish lifestyle. Luxury hotel residences, private jets, yacht parties, all while dating Hollywood star Anne Hathaway. In October 2008, Follieri pleaded guilty to federal criminal charges and was sentenced to a 4.5-year prison term. And as expected, his whirlwind romance with the Devil Wears Prada actress turned to nada.
Thank you for your time.
Number 3. Robert Hendy Freegard. Imagine a secret agent coming up to you and saying he has intel that your life is in danger. Would you believe him? This scammer's victims certainly did. Starting in the 1990s and stretching well into the early 2000s, that was the MO of one of the most convincing liars the police have ever seen. A former barman and ex-car salesman, Robert Hendy Freegard fooled his victims into thinking that he was an undercover agent for MI5 or the Scotland Yard, working against the IRA. He took their money and property, demanded they cut off contact with their family, and made them go through loyalty tests. When his victims disobeyed, he threatened their lives. Over a span of a decade, Freegard defrauded victims out of hundreds of thousands of British pounds. He was eventually apprehended in a sting operation set up by the FBI in Heathrow Airport. He served a measly 9 years in prison after winning 2 cases on appeal. Number 2. Rudy Kurniawan. Billions of dollars circulate in the wine industry year after year, and that is a fact Rudy Kurniawan took advantage of rather brilliantly. Rudy Kurniawan was born in Indonesia and flew to the U.S. on a student visa in 1998. In 2003, he stayed in the country as an illegal alien and was able to start buying and selling large amounts of rare wines thanks to his highly developed palate. By 2006, he was reportedly spending as much as $1 million a month in auctions.
He knew how to develop that persona that would give him credibility in the very fine wine world, which would then allow him to sell extraordinarily large quantities of wine.
Eventually, Kurniawan found himself to be the toast of the wine world, who's able to auction off rare and expensive French Burgundy wines, one of which netted an astounding $24.7 million.
It's expensive because it's rare, but it also is, to anybody who really knows wine, the best wine in the world.
However, starting in 2007, representatives from wine companies were informing auction houses that Kurniawan's bottles were actually fake. The wine forger was bottling mixed, cheap wines and counterfeiting wine labels in his basement. He was arrested by the FBI in 2012 and was found guilty of numerous fraud charges. He eventually went down in history as the first person ever to be convicted of wine fraud. Before we go to our number 1 pick, do us a solid and make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to choose all so you won't miss out on any of our latest life-changing, boredom-busting content. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications in your app settings. Number 1. Elizabeth Holmes. The promise of tech company Theranos was as brilliant as it is simple.
We've made it possible to run comprehensive laboratory tests from a tiny sample or a few drops of blood that could be taken from a finger.
That's right. From cholesterol to cancer, Theranos can yield a diagnosis just with a pinprick. And the woman behind this revolutionary company was Elizabeth Holmes. After dropping out from her chemical engineering degree at Stanford in 2004, she used her tuition money to fund her blood testing startup that aimed to make the process simpler, faster, and more accessible to people. Being a master at marketing, Holmes, who worshipped Steve Jobs and even emulated his signature black turtleneck, was able to raise over $700 million from venture capitalists, resulting in the company's $10 billion valuation. She was even named, at one point, the world's youngest self-made billionaire.
Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos.
Elizabeth Holmes. Elizabeth Holmes.
Thank you for having me. I am so incredibly humbled.
We did this.
However, in October of 2015, it all came crashing down when Wall Street Journal investigative reporter John Carreyrou started questioning the validity and efficacy of Theranos' technology. It was found that the company's devices yielded inaccurate results, and the results they were publishing were gathered from traditional blood testing procedures instead of their own machine.
And one of the things they did was they diluted the small droplets of blood to make the volume bigger to accommodate these commercial machines.
Apart from the fraudulent claims, Theranos was also hounded with allegations of mismanagement and corruption. In 2018, Holmes was charged with massive fraud by the SEC, and Theranos was later shut down. So, which of these fraudsters made your blood boil? Let us know in the comments section below. Take home any of our exclusive gear by browsing our merch shelf or clicking the link in the video description. And while you're at it, take our quiz to find out how you can earn extra cash online doing what you do best. Awesome, right? Now, let's discover some inventions that shouldn't have seen the light of day. Don't miss our roundup of the 9 biggest product flops. Till then, stay vigilant, Factnatics, and see you in the next video.